This podcast is brought to you by Contessa Digital.
Imagine waking up one morning, going about your day, and getting a phone call that you are now a multimillionaire for something that happened to you more than 10 years prior. That is the story of a woman who recently posted on Reddit, and I want to talk about what happened to her and provider men and SheraSeven, and what a lot of femininity coaches like her get wrong about provider men. So, welcome to Confidently Cherished. My name is Keshia Rice. I am a dating coach and hypnotherapist. I help women break through their unhealthy dating and relationship patterns so that they can finally attract healthy, loving, cherished relationships. So back to this Reddit story. And by the way, I have lately deeply fallen into a Reddit hole. So I will probably be making more posts based on the things that I see there. But anyways, back to the story. So the woman says that she's now in her mid-30s. But when she was about 20 years old, she was in college and she went out of town with a group of friends, and they were going to spend the whole summer in Florida. They get there and she meets a man who she says looked older than her, and significantly older at that he looked to be around 45. Turns out this man was in his 60s. So she says that she and the man ended up spending the entire summer together. He was a widower. His wife had just recently passed. And she says that they spent time together. She knew he had some money because they went to fancy events and they spent time on a yacht. But at the same time, she says this man never really spent significant amounts of money on her, and she never asked for any extravagant gifts or anything like that. She says when the summer ended, the man asked her to be his girlfriend, and she agreed, but she also said that she wanted to finish college, and where she went to college was several states away, so she was planning on going back to school, and she asked if they could do a long distance relationship. He said that that would not work for him, and she said, okay, I understand. And they broke up. She ended up going on to finish school, later met a nice man. She married that man. You know, they were set up to live happily ever after. They both had good jobs. They both do well for themselves. They're not rich, but they're able to live comfortably. Well, she says she recently got a call from the man's lawyer and from his son, who, by the way, she got along with the son. The son had no issues with his father being with a much younger woman like that. But she got phone calls informing her that the man had passed away. And because she helped him so much when he was in a sad place because of the loss of his wife, the man left millions of dollars to her in his will. And she was wondering whether or not she should accept this money, whether or not it was fair. In the end, she does decide to accept the money, put it away as trust funds for her kids, and to also give some of it away to people that she knew needed it. And this is an amazing story, right? This is the thing that some women dream about when we talk about sugar babies, sugar daddies, leveling up, finding high value men, and all of that. And stories like this are the reason why women like SheraSeven are popular. I have a former client now, but if my previous clients want to keep in touch with me, I still allow that. So she has been sending me some clips lately from SheraSeven's videos. Not the full videos, because I don't know if you follow SheraSeven, but her live videos, I've done quick scrolls on YouTube before, and some of her lives are 2, 3, 4 hours, which if you want to listen to that, I say all the power to you. I just typically don't have time. I think I may have watched maybe 2 of SheraSeven's lives in full. But anyways, she has sent me short clips and asked me what she thinks, or what I think. And here's the thing. I'm not going to be one of those dating coaches who villainizes SheraSeven. There are some things that she says that are very valid. She talks a lot about the most important relationship being the one with yourself, putting yourself first. That not only is there nothing wrong with being selfish, but being what society considers selfish is the best way to protect yourself. And not just the best way to protect yourself, but if you plan on having kids, it is the best way to protect them too, because when you make sure that you look out for yourself, that you demand to be treated with respect, your children grow up seeing that. They grow up seeing someone who respects their mother. They grow up seeing what self-care looks like. They grow up seeing what it looks like to have boundaries. So don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about falling into the territory of narcissism, but some selfishness is a good thing. She also talks about it's one thing to allow a man to help you get money, to date someone who can pay for you to go to school, pay for you to start a business, things like that. But you also need to, at some point, develop your own money so that should things go south in that relationship, should anything happen, things could go badly in that relationship. He could trade you in for a younger model. He could pass away, and maybe you find out that he didn't have as much money as you thought. Something could happen where he's badly injured and can no longer do the work that was bringing in all that money. All of these things are possibilities. But you should be set up in a situation where no matter what happens, you have your own and you're going to be fine. So, there are several points that SheraSeven makes in at least what I have seen from her videos that I wholeheartedly agree with. At the same time, the problem with her and coaches like her, there's a whole branch of coaching that is a little bit different from what I do as a dating coach. And these women call themselves femininity coaches. Using your feminine energy to get the things that you want in life, which is something that I teach too, but when I'm coaching women, I incorporate feminine energy with the need as women to also sometimes use our masculine energy. I also talk about setting boundaries, healing from past trauma, a lot of things that femininity coaches don't get into. But anyways, while she is right in certain areas, the problem I believe that exists with femininity coaches is a lot of the women who follow them believe that their lives are going to work out in magical ways, like this woman on the Reddit post, or they're going to work out and these women are going to become exactly like Shera, who, if you don't know the story and you don't know who I'm talking about, first of all, just search SheraSeven on, say, TikTok, and you'll find a bunch of short clips that will give you a pretty good idea of who she is if you don't want to watch the long videos. And if you are interested in watching her longer lives, it's SheraSeven on YouTube. But if you don't know her backstory, basically Shera was young, in her early 20s, I believe, and she met this man. The man started showering her with money and gifts and everything. She found out that this man was married. She continued to see him, and eventually she married him. And now Shera is in her 40s, and she has 2 kids, 2 daughters, and this man still takes care of her and, pays the household bills and all of that. Although now at this point, Shera started a career off YouTube, and between YouTube and books she's written, she sells makeup. She sells a lot of merch too. Between all those things, Shera's now a millionaire in her own right. So she doesn't need James's money. That's her husband. She doesn't need James's money anymore. But she still expects him to provide and pay the bills. And again, a lot of women are coming onto her channel, following her content, because they want that life for themselves. They want to be in a situation where work is optional, where possibly they don't work, period, all of that. There are a few problems with this. One is something that Shera brings up herself. As a woman, you must always have FU money. And yes, it means what you think it means. You need to have money to be able to say FU to situations that don't serve you. And this is not just for men. You need to, if your finances are not in order right now, you need to get your finances in order, pay off your debts, create a savings fund, because you need to be able to say FU to a man that you're in a relationship with who has been supporting you. And now you want to leave that relationship. You don't want to have this fear of, well, if I leave, then I'm going to be broken on the streets. If you have a job, you need to be able to say FU to the job if the job becomes a toxic situation. Not that that means you don't work again, but you need to at least be in a position where if things got really bad at that job, you could leave. And if it took you 3-4 months to find a new job, you would be able to stay afloat in that period of time. You need to be able to say FU to family. Not that we want to say those things, but if you are in situations with family members where these people don't respect you, don't respect your boundaries, or try to use money as a means to control you, so, they help you with rent or childcare or things like that, but then in exchange, they feel like they have the right to run your life, you need the money saved up so that if they stopped doing things for you because they didn't like how you chose to live your life, you wouldn't be panicked. So that's the first issue. The second issue is provider man, or as you'll sometimes see on social media, high value man, does not necessarily mean rich man. too often I see women hopping onto Facebook groups, Instagram posts, YouTube, and TikTok, the comment section, asking, how do I find a rich man to provide for me? And there's two issues with this. One, there's more than one way to provide for a person. So I think it's perfectly natural for a woman to want a man to provide for her. But providing is not just financial. It is also mentally, spiritually, emotionally, being able to create a space in which a woman feels safe. Safe to express herself, safe to be who she is, safe to explore new parts of her, safe to grow. Money is part of that, but at the end of the day, it's still only a part of that. The other thing is provision doesn't necessarily require the person who's providing to be rich. So you can create your own definition for this. Feel free. But even a lot of femininity coaches would agree that a man who is a provider is a man who can take care of basic needs. So that means keeping a roof over your head, being able to provide food, so pay for the groceries, being able to pay the utilities, the things that you absolutely must have in life, and that anything else is a bonus. And in fact, you will meet some of these femininity coaches and they will say their man is a provider, but they will also say that they have jobs as well and that their job pays for things like vacations, or they pay to upgrade their own car. Maybe their husband got them a car that was good, dependable, all of that, but they wanted something more luxurious, so they paid for that. Or the money that they make pays for the designer clothes that you see them wearing. Their husbands didn't buy that, they did. And yes, you do have some women who say their husbands are providers, and those men are paying for all the extras too. Their men are paying for the luxuries, but it's not the case. And that's something that the ones who their husbands cover the necessities, but not the extras, that's something you don't see a lot of them talk about. So when you say you want a man who is a provider, you need to get clear on what that definition is for you. You also need to be clear on what that salary looks like, because back to the idea that a provider man is not necessarily a rich man. I live in the United States, and the U.S. is a very big country, which means the cost of living can vary wildly between states, and not just between states, but within a state, between the cities in that state and the rural areas in that state. So depending on where you live in the United States, a man could make $50,000 a year and most definitely be a provider man. He would definitely make enough money to bare minimum support himself and a wife and possibly a child off that $50,000 a year salary. Again, they wouldn't be rich, but he would make enough for them to have a small house. He would make enough for them to, have the bills paid. Kid would go to public school, all of that. Whereas in other states, for a man to be able to do that, he would most definitely have to make 6 figures plus. And depending on where you live, your definition of rich could be wildly different because of those cost of living differences. So even when women say they want a rich man to come in and take care of them, it's not very helpful because rich living in Omaha, Nebraska is very different than the standard to be rich in Miami, Florida, right? Here's the third problem with this. There's so much emphasis on men with money that a lot of women don't realize that rich men are not necessarily provider men's. So provider is a mindset. And there are plenty of rich men who are stingy. I know for a fact that there are men who make multiple six figures or who even make in 7-figure and 8-figure territory, and still they will expect a woman to go 50-50 with them on the bills. Still, they will not pay for any type of luxury or extra, and they would expect a woman to cover that herself. And again, it depends on the person's situation. It is one thing if you are a man who is barely getting by and you tell your wife, hey, if you want, a Van Cleef bracelet or Van Cleef necklace, you're going to pay for it yourself. Because I work my tail off just to pay for our home and our utilities and our groceries and all. I don't have any extra. That's one thing. But I know of situations in which the man makes, I'm thinking of one in particular. This man makes, I don't want to say anything that could identify him. So we're going to say he makes high six figures. So somewhere between the $500,000 to $1 million range. And the woman that he's with, she makes high 5 figures. So she's in the 50 to 100,000 year range. So what he makes is like 10x what she makes. And he still expects her to contribute 50-50 to the bills. So there are plenty of rich men who are also stingy. When you say you want a man who is high value and you say you want a man who is provider, what you're looking for is someone who is generous. Generous comes in all income levels, just like stingy also comes in all income levels. I have not been counting these. I don't know what number we're on. I think we're on number 4. Another issue with being so obsessed with this idea of having a high value provider man is, for some women, this comes from a place of disempowerment. It is one thing to be in a situation where you are ambitious, you are confident, you know you're a baddie, and you want to be with a man who sees your worth, and who treats you accordingly. You command respect, and you expect that anyone who is with you knows that you're a prize and they should treat you like it. That's one thing. It is another thing completely to feel like you can't accomplish things on your own. You're worthless. You don't have a lot going on. And therefore, you need a man to swoop in and save the day and take care of you. That comes from a place of low self-esteem. And when you are in that situation, you become desperate, and these relationships are never going to work out for you. Because even if you do find the man who is willing to pay all the bills and take care of everything, you attract what you are. People love you at the level that you love yourself. So if you don't have that confidence, if you don't love yourself, you will attract a man who may pay the bills, but he's paying the bills as a means to control you. He's paying the bills because he sees you as property. And you're not going to get the sweet treatment that you're hoping for. In fact, you're going to be in a future full of pain. These are the situations where women, again, don't have the FU money, and were, again, more focused on the man being able to pay the bills than they were focused on his character. And now they're in situations with a man who either just left, and now they're left high and dry. This is why you don't see a lot of trad wives on TikTok and Instagram who are in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, because a lot of these women end up in situations where they were used for their youth and their beauty, and then after they pop out a few kids and all of that, the man leaves them and trades them in for a younger model. So now they're in their 40s, they've never had a career, and they're trying to start all over with no job experience and no money. This is also the situations where women will be in relationships forever with men who are physically abusive, or with men who have multiple women and who are constantly cheating on them. But these women don't leave because they don't have other options. They don't know how they would exist in the world, go into the world and take care of themselves, because they've been dependent on this man for so long. Back to the point I made earlier, when you are looking for someone to provide for you, someone who is quote unquote high value, you need to look for someone who makes you feel safe, who is willing to protect you, who cares enough about you to be concerned with your well-being and to make that a priority. So again, this idea of finding a provider man, finding a high value man, I don't believe there's anything wrong with it. And I do believe that women naturally look for men who have the capability to take care of them. I think this goes back to evolution and our caveman days, right? I think it's an incredibly natural desire to have. However, with this desire, you need to take femininity coaches with a grain of salt. You need to hear these stories about women finding someone who takes care of them and upgrades their lifestyle and all of that. You need to listen to those and think, these things might be nice. And there are some things from this that I can take from what I'm looking for in future relationships. But at the same time, you need to remember that, especially on social media, not everything is as it seems. And that having a partner who loves you, who takes care of you, goes far beyond money. So, let me know what you think. Let me know if you follow, watch, listen to these femininity coaches on social media or on a podcast. Let me know if you've been in relationships like this and what were the good sides, the bad sides, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Send me a message. I am on social media at Keshia Rice, Keshia, and you can find me on Instagram, on YouTube, and on TikTok. In the meantime, remember, always love yourself first and let everything else flow from there. Love you. Bye. Hey there. So you made it all the way to the end of the episode, which means I have two things to say. One, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And two, you like me. You really like me. So I would appreciate it if you would show that like by subscribing to this podcast so that more people can hear about it and enjoy it as much as you do. And if you want to know more about any of the links that I mentioned on this episode or any guests that I've had, be sure to go to KeshiaRice.com/links. That's KeshiaRice.com/links. I can't wait to talk to you again in the next episode. So see you then.